Welcome to Enlightened Abroad, the podcast, with Derek Stroud.
Hello, welcome to episode number 10. Episode number 10. I am so amazed by those podcasters out there in the hundreds of thousands who have gone past number 10. It is quite challenging to keep this thing going, and congrats to all you guys. It feels good to be in double digits, though. It really does. So this week I had the pleasure of speaking with Devanshu Virsma. He is a healer and spiritual teacher in the Tibetan pulsing tradition. There are so few people out there who can do this. This is really quite a special guest, and I'd venture to say there are not many podcasts who have this spiritual healing modality on their show. So much so that I got really nervous after doing this because there's some secret Tibetan things that people were, taken into ashrams and sworn to secrecy and then taught others and then told they could only teach certain amounts of people. And I emailed Devanshu and I said, hey, this is an amazing episode, but are you sure we want to put this out there? I got nervous. I thought, here I'm going to be like hunted down after this because this is some ancient stuff. I mean, a lot of these guys got burned out of temples. So he assured me, he said this is great, and he's very happy with it, so it's not for me to not share it. I'm just passing it through. I'm just so lucky to have it and share it with you. I don't worry too much about followers, but this is one of the times where I wish I had 1,000 followers so I could just spread the word more quickly. If you guys find this fascinating and you can share it with 5 people, it will multiply my reach as well, because I can't reach that many people. It's necessary stuff. So there's some quotes in here, right? I'll just read them. This is all from Devanshu. Things like, there is such a world of spiritual treasures out there, and it's slowly disappearing. That is a catastrophe, he says. He also says, it's a reflection of the spiritual crisis that we are in. It's not an economic, societal, or political crisis. It's that we don't know who we are. That was pretty powerful. Things like, when you shine your love, your feelings with another, when you share your love and your feelings with another, the door opens, life comes streaming in. And finally, it's about waking up and stopping the nonsense. We have to use our intelligence to make this a very livable world for every creature on the planet. Words of wisdom, so much in there. The last thing I will say is we moved around a bit in the interview, so we go and talk a bit about Osho, and then we go back to his upbringing, and then we come back to Osho, how he found the temple in Pune, and then we go later on into other things and how he feels that he has grown and can his purpose for healing the world, which he believes is to awaken as many people to the super consciousness that is available, and that is his mission. So please enjoy this episode. I'm not going to recommend any others today except Devanshu. So I can't be more thankful. I can't be more honored to present Devanshu Virsma. Please enjoy. So go ahead. So tell me more about this this personal mission, personal project, you said?
Yes, a personal project. Since very early age, I was interested in Tibet and Tibetan Buddhism, but it's a very complex religion. It's not even a religion, it's a science of mind. And especially when Osho said, my previous incarnation was 700 years ago and I was a Tibetan master, and that body is frozen in ice, so it's still kept alive. I always had the idea I want to go there and find it, and I want to film it and put it out in the world, like hidden mysteries of Tibet revealed, and also use it as a jumping board to not only Osho but to Tibet and the mystery teachings they have that could benefit the world at large, which people totally do not realize. Yeah,
I'll have to ask you a few questions, because the goal, like I said before, is that this will go to people who maybe don't know these things. what you just said is fascinating. Can you tell me, just imagine if there's somebody who had never heard of Osho, their 9-to-5 job in Western society and just this sort of one program, go to college, university, get a job, and they never heard of Osho. Can you take us back a little bit to who was Osho and what it means to you? And
Okay, Osho is a man who was born in 1931, and he was brilliant as a student. He studied philosophy and he won 5 times in a row the All Indian Debate Championship. And then he became a professor in philosophy and he was widely sought after. Soon he left the job to travel around India to spread the message of meditation, because as a student he became enlightened at age 21. He didn't tell anybody about it. He just finished his studies and became a professor. Of course, all the people around him figured out that something had happened to him. And he is like the first one who stands out of all the other masters or gurus or prophets by saying religion is outdated. All religions, they are from the past. Modern man lives in a modern high-tech society, and spirituality has to be adapted to the needs of modern man. So he was outrageous in his viewpoints on, say, even the Buddha or Jesus, by saying in those days they were very relevant, but nowadays who can sit 8 hours a day under a big tree and meditate?
And where did your personal journey come in? I know a bit of your story because I listened to the other podcast. Were you always called to Osho, to Pune, to this spirituality?
When I was 17 and I was a student, not in university but in high school, and then I went to social academy, I never did my homework. I was only reading books on Buddhism and meditation. So I often had problems with passing my exams. A few years later I had a talk with we call decan or rector, the commissioner of the academy, and he said, you're much better off living in this eco-village where you want to go than studying with me, because if you become a sociologist, you will only talk, smoke cigarettes and drink coffee and talk about problems, and you want to do something about it. So I left the academy and lived in an eco-village. But I was always attracted to spirituality, yeah.
Did something happen to make you interested in it, or were you always just pulled towards this? Did someone share it with you?
Of course, I had my own experiences in meditation. And one of the first things that became clear is every human being carries a certain light in himself, a certain consciousness or a beauty, but is not aware of it. 24 hours a day you carry a diamond in your pocket and you never open the pocket.
Did you come up with that?
I came up with it and then I heard Osho saying something very similar.
Can you say that again? 24 hours a day?
You walk around with a diamond in your pocket and you don't even bother to open the pocket to look what's in there, because you don't even know that you carry it.
Yeah. So you knew this at a young age?
Yeah.
And was your family spiritual?
No, not at all. No, my parents, my brother and sisters are what we say ordinary society.
And this was which, were you in Netherlands?
In Netherlands, yeah. Central Holland.
You're also Dutch.
I'm Dutch.
Family. So we're supposed to say welcome to Enlightened Abroad. I forgot to say that, but welcome to the show. But your story was interesting, so we just went into it. And Devanshu, do you have another name? Was this a given name to you, Devanshu?
This is an Osho name.
Okay, so when you go through the Osho meditation and the sannyas, maybe you could tell us that story. You're given another name?
Yeah.
And your other name, do you still use?
My legal name is Herke Wiersma.
Do you still use this for legal things?
I have to, of course. You can't get I always had problems with the name because my father carries exactly the same name. So they called him senior and me junior.
Yeah.
And I really didn't like it. I wanted my own name. And so I went to Pune. I was 22 and I came out of a Buddhist monastery where I was doing a 1-month Vipassana retreat. And A man came with a book of Osho and immediately bought a ticket, and I went to Pune. I arrived at 5 o'clock in the morning. Like a magnetic energy just drew me. The streets were empty, and I arrived on my own at the gates of the ashram, a few miles away from the railway station. And at 7 in the morning, people looked at me and they invited me in the ashram, and half an hour later I was sitting in front of Osho at his morning lecture, and I became almost immediately sannyasi.
And what does that mean for people who don't know sannyasi?
Sannyas is a commitment that comes from an insight that you devote your life to meditation, and you have a guru or a master who is your guiding light. In ancient India, sannyas means to renounce the world. So people don't marry, remain celibate, and live in monasteries and ashrams. But Osho sannyas is you remain in the world. You have your job and your family, all that. We were wearing orange and malas for about 8 years, and then we dropped the whole thing. I kept the name because I really like the name, and it is very meaningful to me. And I got it from a master who is much closer to me than, say, my own father or mother.
Right. So sannyas is not necessarily Osho meditation. It's sannyas can be any type of meditation.
Can be any type. Can be Buddhist, Hindu.
I've only heard it with Osho meditation. So you went to Pune and you had this magnetic pull. That must have been so wild.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. It's like an earthquake, but a very blissful earthquake.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why do you think now, looking back at that time, why do you think that you were pulled towards this way of life, this spirituality, this specific master?
I can say it's destiny, but it's also the fire you feel in yourself. It's like you have to do it. It's like a rock guitar player. He has to stand on stage and he must play his music. You can't stop him. He has such a drive. You can't stop him. He has to do it. And it's the same in the spiritual. You just want to discover. You want to explore. You want to go on a journey. And I was risking anything. I mean, I made $1,000 at home working at a farm. And I went 9 months to India and I came back with zero. And then I worked till I had again $2,000 and I went again for a year and I came back with zero and I didn't even think about it. Like everybody said, you're crazy. My father said, you're so irresponsible. You come back, you have nothing. You don't even have a house to live in. Like I had to look for a room where I could that I could rent and look for a job so I could make money. But I didn't bother about these things. For me, to go to India and to meditate was number one. And so I surrendered everything for it.
Wow. And then how did you get back? How did you sort of navigate then, let's say, the real life where you have to do these things? I mean, you have to earn certain amount of money and go to school. Did you have like a period where you stopped the meditation and went to something else?
The meditation never stopped, but in the 80s, I lived in Amsterdam and I had an Israeli woman with who I married also, and then slowly I started to realize I also need to be someone in society who makes money, who has a career, and I can't continue being so loose, but I was not happy with it, so I started to study several modalities and making money. But then I met, I had a friend, a Sufi, who was a very good and quite famous painter who had a lot of exhibitions, and in one of his evening parties I met a man who was a coach, a consultant and a healer, and he was in the beginning like me, and then he chose for security. He had a wife and 2 kids and he made $250,000 a year, and he said, but what you do I dream of. He said, I cannot take the plane next week and go and sit 3 months at the foot of the Himalayas, going to this Lama or to this Guru. I dream about it. He said, I make a lot of money and I have a big car, but what you do, I dream about. And that gave me the extra to continue with my lifestyle, and I never stopped. Yeah.
It's have you heard the term golden handcuffs?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah.
These things that keep us there, but we think that the gold is what we want. You know, like a large house, for example, but you wind up being a prisoner of this thing.
Exactly.
What I wanted to ask you personally is how do you manage now? Because you've figured it out, I guess, now how to balance this business that you run. I want to ask you exactly what you do and everything, but and also remain on the spiritual path. So did it take a while to find this balance?
Yes, it did.
And how do you, I guess if you were talking to Devanshu at 20 years old, and what would you say, what would you advise the young man?
If when I go back to 20 years old, I would tell people, follow your heart, follow your impulse, just do it. Because before you're old, you must have lived your life. You must have been wild. You must have had many adventures. And then when you're 40, you can always marry and settle down, you know. But the rat race, you know, to have a good job and you make promotion is so high that people are afraid that they're going to lose out on it if they wait too long.
Right.
But you have to live first. You first need to travel the world or do the things you really want to do. But the drive has to be strong to do that. It's not so many people who have that.
Yes, I have that too. And how did you find the balance now? How do you find the balance between work and spiritual?
I do much less than I was inclined to. Like I travel less because I'm married, I have a wife and she wants a steady house and all that. But I want to change it again. And so I want to go to Tibet, and I used to drive my motorcycle in the Himalayas for a year, you know, and those were the best days of my life. It was like you're all the time on a flight, and it's like every day is a fantastic adventure.
Driving through the Himalayas
on a motorcycle, renting houses here and there with locals, living in wooden log houses.
Yeah,
at the edge of the snow, you bath in waterfalls, and you go to lamas and temples, and you just feel free. I don't wear a watch, and I have no computer or mobile phone.
Right.
I live day by day, and it's you come so much in connection with your instincts, your impulses, your real humanness, and it's like you can't buy this stuff in any shop. You know, you can't buy it.
It's like what everyone is searching for with this stuff, right?
It's outside, yeah.
And but not everybody can go to the foothills of the Himalayas.
No, I understand.
I would like to. I'm free enough to.
Well,
but now I wonder, you know, is there a way for the average person, let's say, or the working man, the working woman, to achieve that without going there? And
I would say find a discipline, a spiritual discipline that you can practice every day for at least 1 hour. As Osho said, if you can meditate 1 hour a day, it's enough to stay sane, to stay healthy. And when you're free for 2 days, don't just lounge around. Plan a week in advance to go with your wife. Say, go to Oman for a weekend and go scuba diving, or go into the desert on a camel or on a jeep. You have to plan these things, but do them. People have a tendency to just go shopping and partying in the weekend and nothing else. And just on Thursday evening, just go, boom. Even take a plane to I don't know where. And have a fabulous weekend and come back on the last night. It will give you a real impact, inspiration to do more with your life.
How do you feel now talking about Osho these days?
A little more reserved than before, much more reserved, because there are also other forms of spirituality. And it's almost 30 years ago that he left the planet, and I discovered several types of spirituality that really appeals to me, but I found them also back in his books. So there are parallels which motivate me to follow those paths, and one of them is Taoism and the other one is Buddhism.
You found Taoism later.
Yeah.
What do you know that because that movie came out or the Netflix series came out? Did you see it?
Partially, I saw.
What's your reaction to that then, being there?
I didn't see the whole thing, but I found it quite sensational and also shocking. And I'm planning to see the whole thing again. I was, honestly speaking, not a big fan of the ranch because I found it too American and too much based on a dream that I felt would not materialize down there. And Sheila, who I never liked, I don't know why Osho gave her the power, she fucked the whole thing up. She was like, many good people left the ranch, we say with a silent drum. Many good people left and they said this is not going to work out, and it didn't work out.
Were you at the range in
festival times?
Oh, okay.
I never worked there, but at festival times I was there.
Oh, wow. And why? I guess they had to leave Pune at that time.
No, they did not.
They didn't?
No.
So that must be now, because this is like, now it's in the mainstream culture because of this documentary. So everybody's talking about it. And when there's these negative things that come out about Osho or about that time, I mean, how do you react to that?
I still have to see the whole thing. The first two podcasts were not so, the first few parts were not that shocking. I don't know what's true, what they document, what they show, and what is fake. I don't know. I can't say. Yeah. I have to see it, but it's blown up for sure. It's American sensation. But I felt also that when Osho came to America, he was 1 year in isolation. He had some lower back problems and some health issues. That's why he went primarily to the States. Secretly, they were looking for land, and he gave Sheila the power, and Sheila found land that he absolutely didn't approve of. When he entered by car the land, he said, "How could you buy this piece of scrap?" That was his first reaction. So he didn't approve of with the land at all. It's documented in his books. He hated the land. And Sheila said, "Look, it costed 6 million. We can't sell it." He said, "Okay, then let's make the best out of it." But the very first reaction was, "I don't like this place." So it was already destined to fail. And that's what I felt from the very beginning. It's not going to work out. So I was not interested in going to live there.
I see. Wow. It's a fascinating story. So fascinating.
I was crying about it. I was in India living in Pune at the time when they left. I was not there. Later I went to India and I lived in ashram for a while. And I was crying about it. I knew the good old days will not come back the way they were. Pune was divine and also innocent. The ranch was not innocent. People walked around with guns. There were court cases. They said there was a bomb in a hotel, which was true. There was food poisoning by Sheila, which was true. And then I was like, hey man, I don't want to belong anymore to the club. So I was putting my mala off for 9 months. And but the love for Osho was such that I remained a sannyasin. But I felt a huge alienation with the organization. I always, still I have to come into terms with why Osho allowed all this to happen. And I'm still not 100%, I didn't come to terms, probably I will never get, because he often said, the mystery is such, you never know why I do certain things. They all have a deeper meaning, maybe to shock you so completely in your roots that you really want to find out who you are. Because if I play nice, you will never find out. I have to shock you. So let's keep it at there. But the final reason, what happened, we may never find out. I don't know. But I didn't agree with many things there.
Yeah. What would you say the most, probably difficult question, but the most meaningful thing you got from these teachings with Osho and that experience, let's say before all of the ranch happened? The good old days, as you call it?
Yeah, Pune. The ranch was just 3.5 years. And then that was over, and I was not really part of it. So we sannyasins said there was Pune 1, then there was the ranch, then there was Pune 2 when he came back to India, then he died, he passed away, and then there was Pune 3.
Ah.
And after Pune 3, many therapists left, and then there was what we have Pune 4, that is what's happening now.
So Pune 1, you were in Pune 1.
And Pune 2, yeah, when he was there.
So what was it like this original time?
Original time was, you arrive in an oasis where you hear a secret chant, the divine song, and it touches your heart, it opens your being, and you see the master eye to eye, and you feel, I've come home. This man knows who is God. This man knows who is the divine. He's an open channel, and he transmits, he gives you everything that you need for your path, everything. And he looks in you, and you feel, God looks at me. Of course, God I will have to replace with somebody who is a Buddha, an enlightened one. An enlightened one is an earthquake. You cannot pretend in his presence. You cannot lie. And he's the first man who said, I accept you as you are, in all your madness, craziness, insanity. Because all your madness is given to you by society. It's not you. It's an outside shield, a mask that you wear. Your inner, real being is where the divine resides, and that is your true home. And that struck me so strong, that has always been with me forever. Because when I walked to him to receive the mala, I walked in a tunnel of light and I disappeared, and I was not in my body. And he said, close your eyes, and I saw myself going back in the womb and going in past lives. Everything became dark, and I knew he could see who I was for many lifetimes. And he said, open your eyes, and he put a mala around my neck, and I was enlightened in that moment. I was standing in an ocean of light, and fully conscious. It's totally not what then Americans want to say, you're hypnotized. It has nothing to do with that. I was more aware than I've ever been in my life, with all my chakras buzzing like anything, and at the same time feeling very peaceful and at home and completely blissed out, and I couldn't speak, and I couldn't even think who I was or what my name was. But at the same time, in all your nerves and roots and channels, you feel this is it. This is the real thing. This is our home. This is where we belong. And this is what we need to manifest on earth. And we are created also by higher force to manifest our potential. Human beings have so much potential, but we don't know. Even Albert Einstein said, you only use 10 to 15% of your brain. The rest is not used. And a genius has maybe 20-25% that he's using. And 75% is not used. A genius like Mozart or Einstein. Can you imagine what a potential we have? So my whole life has been basically towards how we open this potential. How can we awaken this? That has been my drive. How can I open all this glory, this super intelligence? What is the way? What is the path? I'm open to do anything, but I want to experience it.
That's your life's purpose.
My life's purpose, yeah.
And you knew that at that time, you think, when you received that?
From him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was straight
so
away
powerful.
That was straight away transmitted in silence. And he said, I will be with you until your own enlightenment.
You're so lucky to have that experience, no?
Yeah, very lucky.
And do you think everyone who went there had that experience, or?
Everyone who received initiation from Osho has that possibility, because he says, when I see something in somebody, I call him.
Okay.
But it's up to you to accept the invitation and to work with it, because many people came. What they do with it, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know, but I think there are thousands of people like me who experience this and who work with it. Yeah.
Why do you think he had that ability to? What do you think it was? Can you explain it?
What he has, that's his ability. He always said, I'm a hollow bamboo. I don't exist. Only the divine spirit exists. And so this divine enters him, and it's flowing out of him. He has no personal agenda. He sits in his room the whole day in meditation, and he comes out in the morning, 1.5 hours in the evening, and what he is, he transmits to everybody who sits there. So we receive the full Shakti, as they say, Shaktipat, or Kundalini transference, or Darshan, whatever name, we get the full spirit. And but it depends on me or on you, if you can digest, absorb it. Yeah, I cannot, of course, absorb everything he gives.
Yeah.
Because I have my limitations, and I have to learn how to let go of these limitations. That is the path. To see the light, or to feel the inspiration, and to walk the path and to let go of the limitations, so I become an open channel for super consciousness to awaken in me, so I can pass it on to others.
Seems like you're doing that.
I hope I have some contribution there. Yeah,
it's amazing. Thank you for sharing all that about Osho. That's like, it's amazing that I can now share this with other people.
Yeah.
Because it's rare. I think, you said maybe 1,000 people have had that experience.
I think more. I think 20,000 or 10,000. Okay. I think a few 100,000 people came to Osho, and many had the experience, but also many left again because they felt, especially after he left the body, it doesn't fit me, or they went to other gurus, or they dropped the search. I don't know. I have but many people left, but many people also continue.
Right. So, when you gave your session, one of the things that I listened to the recording again, our recording, one of the things that I thought that I noticed that you did was, even though there were blocks, in certain blocks in my eye of things that were my life's work or holding me back, you never expressed them in a negative way, in a way that it was exciting spiritual life challenge. As I listened the second time, I said, wow, that's really powerful, because, it wasn't like, this is your problem, blah, blah. It was more like, wow, this is fascinating that you have this. This is your life's work. This is an opportunity. So I think you're doing that.
That's how to help people. In the eye reading, when I learned eye reading, I was more, when I started to work with it, if you look at the charges and you tell people, oh, you have this and this and this problem, it becomes a court case. You tell people what's wrong with you, and you don't help people with it. So I decided, no, I say things in a way that I can open their doors and windows, but I don't lie, I don't fantasize, I don't tell untruth. Everything is true, what I see in the eye, but I say it in a way so a person can absorb, digest it, and then allow it to resonate in them so they can work with it.
So how did you learn Tibetan eye reading?
I learned it from an American guy, Dhiraj. Dhiraj was an Osho disciple in later years, 84. He was a very wild American guy. He was even a Hells Angel for a while. He became alcoholic. His father was an officer in the army, fought in Korea. His mother was a converted Christian and who thought she was like Elizabeth Taylor. He had a very crazy upbringing in Texas, also violent. He had a lot of fights, and one day he had pancreatitis and he almost died, and then he started to pulse his pancreas and he became better, and then he started to get all kind of visions.
Sorry, you said pulse his pancreas?
He started to pulse his pancreas.
What does that mean?
He started to bring a pulse beat on his pancreas. Pulsing is a work, Tibetan pulsing, that comes... Eye reading is a diagnosis in the work of Tibetan pulsing. And pulsing is an ancient Tibetan transformational tantric body work to open all your channels so the consciousness can flow unobstructed through your system. Yeah.
So you said to me that there were some things, specifically the tongue organ was big, and then you said if I wanted to do a session with you after. So after the session would be a pulsing after the reading? I see, okay.
Or people book, say, the next day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you're able to do that pulsing. And you learned it from this guy, this American guy.
Yeah. So this man was discovered by Tibetan life. First he was very thick. Then he started to heal himself with the pulse. Then he got visions and he wrote them all down. Like these mandalas, and he used the tarot cards. And then one day a Tibetan Lama, this was like 1974, was standing in front of him. And Dheeraj, his name was Rudy, Rudolph James Murley, Rudy, and he had a huge moustache with 3 curls. And this Lama said, "How did you manage to bring this moustache through the bardo?" He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "In a former lifetime, you were a Lama who had the same moustache." And then he was hit by lightning, and he fell on the ground. And then these lamas started to train him, and slowly it became evident that he was an incarnation of a high Tibetan Lama. And he was born in America to learn what is human suffering in the body of a Western person. What is it to have a Western mind, so he could transmit the teachings for Westerners in a more direct way. So he was training with very high lamas, Kalo Rinpoche, Dujum Rinpoche, Sakya Trichin and others for a long time, until they told him, "Now you have to go your own way and you will meet a new master." And he said, "How I will recognize this master?" And they spoke in mystery. They said, "He is the dragon. And the dragon is the most radical master of the century." He said, "Great, but how I'm going to find him?" He said, "His disciples talk about him in terms of love." More they didn't want to say. So he didn't know where to look. So one day he finds himself in London, and then he meets the sannyasins, and they all the time spoke about love and Osho, and then he knew this is it. And he went to America and he became a sannyasin.
Okay, so Osho was the master?
Yeah, then Osho was his master, and he invited him to come to Pune. Osho said, "Most probably I will go back to Pune." And so he came to Pune, and Osho built these big black pyramids with blue glass. And he said, "This is the best protection if there comes a nuclear war against radioactivity, as well as keeping the energy inside." And they got names, these pyramids, like Kabir and Tilopa and Naropa. And he said, "This is the biggest pyramid, Naropa. That's the transmission of Indian knowledge to Tibet, who created their own spiritual wisdom. And I give this pyramid to Dheeraj." And many people were highly jealous, because who was Dheeraj? He was a newcomer, he just came. But he got the biggest pyramid, and he had most people in his training. So I stayed with him for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And I got the full transmission, and then he left Pune and went to Italy, where we were still for 1 year together, and then he died. This was 98. So yeah, in Pune I was...
When you when you said full transmission from him, it means what?
Like the work, there is many aspects to the work. Like you start with beginner groups, fresh juice, fresh air, ignition, initiation groups. Then there is a 2 months basic intensive training. That's the first transmissions. Then there are 6 waves of 4 organs each, the new mind process. And that takes a few years. And in the end there was the temple. So I got the full transmission of knowledge from him. I did all his groups trainings. I repeated them. Some groups I did 6-7 times. So I was 7 years full time in the process.
And do you teach this to others?
I teach this to others.
As far as training them for...
I used to. Now I only do sessions, because I don't get people for groups. If you want to learn the work, you must have a real strong commitment.
Yeah, because it's at least 7 years.
Yeah.
Right?
You can do the whole thing in, let's say, 3 years, but people don't have the time to do it. It's like going to college.
It's like a PhD in...
Yeah, I did it in Russia, though.
Yeah.
Russians have this mentality. Once they trust what you're doing is real, they go for it. So I transmitted the whole thing in Russia to a group of very devoted students.
So you do it in a group?
The group,
if you were to
in
train.
Group process, yeah, is in a group.
So how many people know this healing technique besides? I mean, is a lot of people practicing it, or is
no? In Germany, there are quite a few. Switzerland, Italy, some. Holland, some. Otherwise, no, it's not a lot. In Russia, there's quite a lot now in Moscow. But beside that, it's not very known to the world, because Dheeraj was the only one who worked with it. And later, when I met my Lama, 4 years after Dheeraj died in India, in the Himalayas, Lama Lobsang, I was, of course, full of fire, and I told him everything. And he said, "Great, but remember, this is not the only work that came from Tibet that is hidden." He said, "When we left Tibet, we lost almost half of the work, Many things are lost." So the Tibetans keep the philosophy, the scriptures, the sutras, the prayers, the mantras, and so on. But many things are lost. And they had very specific practices. Like I learned from this Lama Tibetan yoga, which is totally different than Indian yoga. And I learned from him inner fire and dream yoga and how to leave your body in the night and how to train yourself so when you die you go conscious out of your body and you can keep conscious. I'm not saying I'm mastering it, but I got his teachings. And
so these teachings are you said they're lost or they're hidden?
No, these teachings I got from him, they still have.
Okay.
But he said there are many teachings that are lost because the monasteries are destroyed and many libraries are burned and many lamas were murdered. And what Dheeraj learned was a very specific work in a monastery that was secret. It was only given to devoted monks and it was practiced behind closed doors. So there is no literature about it.
Wow.
So the only literature is given to students and you're not allowed to give it to others. If you give it to others, you're expelled from the monastery. So these were called mystery schools. Like in Arab countries, you also have the Sufis. They are mystery schools. So in Tibet, also in India, there are secret schools, schools of Tantra. In China, Taoist schools. And in Tibet, there are secret Tantric schools. Yeah, and they're very old. Some are thousands years old. Few thousand years. And so pulsing came from the Tibetan monasteries and from the Nyingma sect, and Padmasambhava was connected with it. But when you ask the lamas nowadays, they don't know. So then I started to doubt maybe it's not real. So I went to many lamas, and one lama in 91 I went for a trek in the mountains and I came back. And this lama looked at me, so Tarzan, what are you going to do? Because I had in mind, I go to Sri Lanka surfing and I live in the jungle. So he read my mind. He said, so Tarzan, what are you going to do? And I was like, I said, can you read my mind? He said, yeah, you made in Amsterdam a few movies. I was an actor for a while and I was on TV. You made a few movies, but it didn't help you in your meditation. So what are you going to do? I was shocked like this.
Wow.
And so after I left and I went to Sri Lanka, and then the next year I found pulsing. This was 92. And I was trained in pulsing for a year, and then I went with my motorbike again to the Himalayas. I went to Nepal and I went to his monastery, and he looked at me and he gave every morning audience to Westerners on the top of his roof in a golden roof temple on top of his monastery, and there's about 100 people there. And I came in and immediately said, come here. And so what are you doing? And I explained to him what I was doing. And he took a sword from the wall, took a mandala from the wall, wrapped the mandala around the sword, and he touched all my chakras. And he said, you are very blessed, you are very fortunate, very blessed.
Wow.
And his students started to touch my feet, and I was completely blown away, you know. And it was like...
What was that about? What was he talking about?
He knew what I was learning, and he said, this is one of the secret works. Practice, but also practice Buddha Dharma. Because if you don't practice Buddha Dharma, the effects will be good, but if you practice Buddha Dharma, it will be superior. I was blown away by his reaction, and I visited a few more lamas over the years, and they all confirmed that I found one of the most powerful bodywork, tantric bodywork techniques from Tibet. So, which said this is totally a legitimate Tibetan transformational work, because I got it from 3 lamas. Boom. So I was happy like anything.
I have to do a session with you now. When are you coming back here?
25th of June, Edda says.
Okay. That's incredible. So how do you get this work out there then? How do you manage your...
Okay, so I started to study this work for myself. And only after 5 years it dawned on me, maybe I can make a profession out of it. And the moment I thought that, I got invitations. I went to Japan, I went to Australia, I went to Norway, and the ball started to roll. And then I met my wife, and I was in Russia for 12 years with her. We had our own school there. And I was also teaching Osho meditations, Ayurvedic massage, and other modalities, but primarily Tibetan pulsing. And I always have people. But in Holland, or if you go somewhere in Europe, it's difficult to get people because they don't know what it is. And also, it looks a little bit strange, the work. People start to feel strange because the pulse immediately opens a channel. And people are not used to that, you know, they're used to a gentle coming in, and pulse is like, you go like, zzz, and suddenly, what the heck is this, you know, it's like, and then they go very deep, it's like you stream into your unconscious, and slowly doors started to open one after the other. And it's very powerful, but it depends on the individual. Do you resist or you go with the flow? And many people resist, and then they get a headache, or they don't like it, or it's too fast. So in a way, a person has to be also ready for it. So here in Dubai, I do simple beginner's work that people can digest and feel very well with.
How long does a session take?
It's an hour.
1 hour?
Yeah.
And then what do you need to do to prepare? You have to do the reading first of someone? Or no?
Not necessary. People can come straight away.
You can feel it, or you talk to them first?
I always look in the eye with the lamp. And
okay.
I always do a short eye reading. I don't make then the photo. I read the eye. That's what we always do. And then I talk with the person about a certain issue they have, and if they want to work it.
Mm-hmm. So how is it then, if you have this ability, this ancient teaching that you can now transmit?
Yeah.
I mean, it must be difficult to walk around in normal life, you know? You must feel all these energies, no?
Yeah.
How do you, how do you not just get overwhelmed by it all?
I get.
Yeah?
Very often I have the feeling I want to get out of society and live in the Himalayas in a little house near a monastery and devote my entire life to that. And when I did, it went well for a few months, but then I always got sick. I got a message, you have to go back to the world and you have to share this. And that's what my Lama also said, don't go too long on retreat, you have to share what you know.
So it's your purpose.
Yeah, it's my purpose. Also, I train myself more in Buddhist techniques. So not only what I learned from Osho and Dheeraj, but also in the Tibetan Buddhist world and the Taoist world, because they are very, very intriguing. I did also Zen retreats. I was 2 times in Japan. It's all fascinating. It's all fascinating.
Wow.
There's such a world of spiritual treasures out there. I mean, it's slowly disappearing. That is a catastrophe, you know. Like Japan is full of Zen temples, and the people are not interested anymore. They have no Zen masters anymore. People don't want to become monks. Okay, then don't be monks, but meditate. These Zen temples, you enter them. You go. When I enter a Zen temple in Japan, I go straight in meditation. Boom! I sit in half lotus. And my mind is gone. And I do Zen meditation. It just happens by itself. And it's the same in the Himalayas. If I go anywhere, I sit down, I'm straight away in meditation. I don't have to do anything for it. It's the energy. And it's like people are oblivious to it. It's like I don't get it. People don't feel it.
Do you think it's certain places in the world that have that, or it's just...
Certain places in the world have it, yeah. But we must be able to meditate anywhere. But if you go to a power place... And we are here in the Arab, I think Mecca is a power place, but of course here in the desert, or there are power places where that simply means the energy is intensified, and or a mystic lived there, or a prophet, or a biblical figure.
Have you ever written books about this?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah? So there's books where we can read some of your work?
Yeah.
Man, it's a precious gift.
It is, yeah.
Now I want to do a session.
Okay. There are 3 books. The first book you only get if you do the training. Because otherwise you won't understand it. The second book is the book from Dheeraj, Bardo Alive, Where Does the World Come From? Means how the world comes into existence, your inner world. And the third book, which is a more accessible book, is from English student of Dheeraj, a woman called Anne Moldsdale, The 24 Lights. So we say here the 24 organs, she calls them the 24 lights. If you go on internet, you can order the book 24 Lights, it's about 20 euros. It explains the very basics and the very foundation of Tibetan pulsing, but it says nothing about the bodywork. It's more about what does an organ represent, what is an organ for, like duodenum is your self-respect, and in a spiritual state it's the Buddha channel, and in negative it's where you store your worry, anxiety, worry for money. You don't respect yourself anymore. You are afraid of other people's opinions about you. That's all duodenum. Holland is a duodenum country. My mother always
say that last one starts with a D. What is it?
Duodenum.
Duodenum. It means what?
That's the 12-inch darm that comes out of the stomach and then goes in the, yeah. That's often where people have ulcers because they worry. My mother always said, I worry about you. I worry about your future. I worry so much. This is Dutch. And the color is grass green, yeah, and the animal is the cow. So, yeah, each organ has its qualities. It's very fascinating. Every person vibrates from a certain frequency, from a certain organ. But it's difficult to feel which is the one because we are so covered by so many limitations that often you feel the limitation. But very often I can say, oh, this person is a pancreas, or that person is a small intestine, or this person is a tongue or a spleen. Certain organs stand out very strong. Other organs are more, you have to know the person for a while to see it.
So you can, you can see it from the eye, or you can see it like me sitting.
I feel it.
So me sitting here, you could feel which organ?
Should be, but I find it difficult to. Yeah.
Which one do you think?
I was somehow thinking duodenum also.
Okay.
Yeah. But it could be something else. It could also be legs or throat. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely not stomach or spinal base or colon or kidneys. I can say straight away what it isn't, but what it really is, I have to know you for a while,
right,
and do a few sessions. It's very difficult
to
find out what is somebody's organ. Sometimes it's very clear.
Yeah.
Boom, straight away.
Yeah.
I'm a small intestine. A country also vibrates from a certain organ. We have a calendar, and it says every day is in the morning a certain organ, and the afternoon is another organ. And then it repeats itself in the evening. In the night, around 12 o'clock, it changes.
Wow, so like the US is a certain organ?
The lungs.
The lungs? What does that mean?
The lungs always want to correct other people. At the same time, they feel guilty about it.
That's so true.
They're under pressure, but they always want their freedom, their joy and inspiration. And the white or the bald eagle is the symbol of the lungs. Fresh air, space. But they also look for recognition. They also look for, how to call it?
Like a validation?
Yeah, a validation, yeah.
Yes.
Confirmation, joy, inspiration, confirmation. Yeah. That's the lungs.
Yeah. So that the people from that place would have this characteristic. Yes.
Yeah. So lungs is, say, for America, but every town or every, say, state has also its own specific. Yeah.
Every state,
has its own specific frequency. It's very and every human being, like Italy is liver, very strong. Mamma Mia, the opera, drama, Mother Maria. It's the liver, yeah. And but Bagni di Lucca in Tuscany is totally stomach. Yeah, so it depends where you are. It's difficult to figure out. You must be in tune with the earth energy, the earth. Feel the frequency of the earth where it touches you in the body, and then you know this place is in the frequency of this organ. It's very complex.
Wow. How are you feeling now? Talking.
Very good.
Yeah. Do you want to talk more?
Sure.
Okay. And I mean, there's so much here. We could talk forever.
Yeah. We basically talked about Tibetan pulsing and Osho, but there is so much more in the world.
So tell me what else do you want to share?
What I see a lot of people who come to me who are looking for answers, like their basic foundation of what life is about, to marry, have a job, doesn't stand strong on its legs anymore. People feel wobbling, an insecurity coming in. People start to search. Their identity is like slowly falling to pieces. Many people go in crisis. Many people. And it's healthy that they look for answers, you know. It's a good sign. Life is calling us because the world is in a huge crisis. Now the latest thing is climate change. It's everywhere around the world. This young girl from Sweden, for instance. But climate change is here, and nature is very rapidly deteriorating. Animals are disappearing. In India, panthers, leopards are roaming cities in search of food. It's like, what's going on? So many fish are dying, or you can't consume them anymore because they're poisonous. If you know the amount of toxicity that is in the food, it's horrendous. If you make a research, it's like you don't want to eat anything that is not organic. But it's all a reflection of the spiritual crisis we're in. We don't know who we are, you see. It's not an economical crisis or a social crisis. It has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with ourselves. We lost the way. We don't know who we are. So it's time to find out who we are, and we can set everything right again. Yeah. And it's not through politics or through stopping climate change or the economy or whatever, It starts with ourselves. When we are in harmony with ourselves, we can radiate it out to the whole world.
So that's our work.
That's our work. That's why we're here for.
That's why you're here.
But life is calling, and that's what I see. Life is calling on your door. In religious terms, God knocks on your door. Wake up. It's about waking up and stop the nonsense that's going on and the tremendous waste of money and pollution for nonsensical things. We have to use our intelligence to make this a very livable world for every creature that is on this planet, and not the super rich and the poor gets poorer, No.
Can you see the future things? Can you get visions of that or no?
Yes, but not too strong, and that is good because I'm not supposed to have them, because otherwise you may start to worry too much. But I have a quite somber perspective for the future. It's going to get worse and worse, and we get huge problems with the pollution. And the Lama with who I worked, who's also a doctor, he told me in private, we were 4 people sitting there, he said the world is going to face very hard times where we'll have diseases that are so infectious, and the medical world has no answer, no response. They don't know a cure, and many people will die. I hope it's not going to happen, but the Tibetans have a blueprint of the future, and I have seen in secret teachings, I was allowed to have a glimpse into that. And the final outcome is very good. We're going to get a more spiritual world, but that is still a few hundred years ahead of us. Until it's so far, we're going to see quite a lot of suffering on the planet. And people really have to understand that we have everything it needs to create a paradise, an oasis, but you have to let go of ugly, selfish motives. And I'm afraid the people who have the power in their hands have a very selfish motivation. They want to have the power and the money, and they have to see that it only brings suffering,
Right. It's hard not to get depressed.
Yeah, it's hard
when you think about that.
Yeah, that's why many people also, like my sister, they don't want to know all this. When I start to talk about, no, forget it, have a good time today.
Yeah. So what's the answer then? What do we do?
Research in yourself and what is going on in the world, but don't be depressed. Look at the good things. Look at what you can do. You can do a lot. Don't fantasize too much, but do something new. Every day even a small thing, do something new. The way you touch your cup of coffee or the way you walk, become more aware and find your passion, your inspiration. What you really feel is for you. It doesn't have to be grand and great. People say, but I'm not a great artist. No, you can be in the small, you can discover something that makes you happy, and this you can share with other people.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm doing that in my work. I'm also not a great, famous, whatever, but I do my thing and it makes me really happy. And it makes me happy that I help other people becoming more happy.
Yes.
And more open and more healthy. And then I know my life and my work has a purpose and for the good.
Yes. I'm so glad I met you. I think we could go on for another hour, but I think this is a good stopping point.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
I don't mind.
No? So
I have the time, so you can ask questions that you didn't ask.
how do you deal with then these life things that we're supposed to do? For example, love relationships, paying rent, mortgage, booking flights. I mean, these things, I know they seem silly when you're talking about this Tibetan posing and Osho and the Himalayas and the blueprint for the world.
Yeah. Like it's far out there, my daily reality.
Yeah, like how do you deal with this day-to-day stuff?
Okay, so I am me. I have a body, I have a mind, a heart and a soul, a spirit. I can feel that in the Himalaya is great, but I can also feel it here on this sofa in Dubai is great. I can drive my car over the road and I'm the same me, the same mind, the same heart. So I can feel all that inspiration and meditation right here, right now. And that is the message of Osho also. Don't go to the monasteries and to the caves. Live in society, because that's where the transformation has to take place. Because if we say, okay, you have to go to India, then it doesn't work.
Right.
People have to stay in their families, their relationships, in their job. Don't escape somewhere else. I mean, you can change your job and your relation, of course, but it's not so much a matter of changing the outer. It's a matter of changing the inner. Yeah, the outer may be very stimulating. I needed that stimulants. But now I see it can become an escape also. Like I can only meditate if I'm in Asia or in the mountains. No, I have to meditate also here.
Do you know who Jack Kornfield is?
Yeah, I know him,
the Buddhist.
Yeah, I have his books.
Yeah, he's great. And he said the best meditation he ever had was having kids. Having to deal with it.
Yeah, possible, yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about this project. We can finish on this then. This thing that you want to do next with filming and searching for something?
Yeah.
What's your goal or vision with that?
Okay, I want to go to Tibet, but not just as a tourist, but more as on a pilgrimage, and I want to visit several very famous and powerful temples in central Tibet, not in Lhasa, because Lhasa is a commercial showpiece of the Chinese. It's horrible, but I go to other places, and also a lake called the Lake of Vision, or the Lake of Mirrors. They say if you sit for 3 days at the lake, you have visions. That's one thing, but I also want to find out Osho's previous incarnation. He was a Tibetan master, and when he died, they put his body in the lotus posture, and then with freezing temperatures, they poured water over his body until a whole icicle was formed, like an ice pyramid around him, And that ice block they put in a cave where it's always below zero. And he said it's still there. But if you want to find it, go fast, because the climate is changing, the temperature is rising, and then it might melt.
Right.
So it might be that I will never find it because it's gone.
It's a cool project.
Yeah.
So you want to take a video crew there and do it?
Yeah, I want to go there and meditate there if I find and film it. And even one person with a good camera, film it. Keep the place secret. We will not tell everybody where it is, because then a crowd comes. But film it and show it to the world. This was Osho. And then also there are, he said it himself, and also Tibetan Lama confirmed it. There are statues in gold of him, and either 100 or 200 Buddhas, the Buddhas of the future. So the Tibetan Buddhas of the future are kept in a cave, life size. And Osho said his statue is of gold.
Okay.
And the Buddha Maitreya is there, and he is there, but they're kept in a cave under the ground, and nobody knows where it is, only the Tibetans, but they will not make it public.
Can you still go to Tibet now?
You can go.
Anybody can go there?
Anybody can go.
And now, are the lamas allowed back? Are they not there? Or?
Some lamas go back, but under very heavy restrictions, like they can go to the place of birth, and to the monastery, but they cannot really do a lot of teachings. But they became a little more loose, the Chinese authorities, because they know if we slaughter them all and stop everything, nobody will come to Tibet anymore. But it's just for tourism. They allow, it's horrible. It's like they destroyed the most beautiful places of worship and learning. They destroyed, and they killed Thousands of monks and lamas.
Why did that happen?
Yeah, well, why did Adolf Hitler kill Jews? It's madness. It's insanity. Mao Zedong was like Adolf Hitler, you know, and like Joseph Stalin. Stalin killed millions of Russians, his own people. Stalin in Siberia. I lived 13 years in Siberia. It used to be full of shaman, so many shaman, and Stalin killed them all. Very few now are coming back, but I saw quite a few of them, but not many have the real power. Only a few. In those days, there were many, thousands, and he killed them. It's just
well, and I hope that this project can happen. If you need any sound equipment, let me know.
Maybe that's why I met you. Because I had another person who wanted to come, but he has no time, and then that person. It's a great trip. You go to Kathmandu, you need a group of 5 people. You apply for a visa, and then you apply as a group. You do it through a travel agent. And then the 5 travel by bus through the Himalayas to the border. You show your visa and your permit, and you go as a group.
Yeah, great. Well, Devanshu, so any last words that you want to share for the people who are going to listen in America, all over the world?
Yeah. Okay. No matter how sad or depressed or gloomy or uselessness of life you feel, it's all your mind. It's not true. It's just a bad dream you're in. The reality is that we are made to be shining beings, and we are. Everybody radiates a light out, and I wish everybody comes in touch with it. Of course, we have our personal agendas, and when we are hurt or insulted. My biggest lesson is like when I don't work, I have a confrontation or my relation or whatever insult, I sit with it. But the moment I work, it leaves me straight away. Because I see in the work there is so much to explore and to give and to share. Sharing is the most needed quality. When you share your heart, your feelings with another, the door opens, the door falls away. Life comes streaming in and it smiles at you and says, look, this is what you have to do, but just do it.
That's great. That's what I experienced with this, because as soon as I started to share it, things started to come, like this interview. So
thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Enlightened Abroad. Have a great day wherever you are.